What's going on, boys? Maybe instead of a primary point today, we will have a primary theme. First, I've been thinking about what the main application takeaway of MBTI would be if I were to walk away from it right now. Meaning, if you were to approach MBTI to learn a skill that would improve your life immediately, what would it be? That skill is knowing the difference between FE and FI and learning how to tell where either function is in someone's stack. How a person feels and how they process what they feel is more important than anything else. And while all functions are involved in feeling, processing feelings, understanding their feeling function and how it works gives you a leg up. If you can assess someone's feeling function in the first 20 seconds of a conversation, you know exactly how you need to approach them for the most impact. Now, I don't think I'll be throwing away MBTI, but recently it's been moving to the back of my mind, yet the one point that remains at the forefront of my mind all the time is FE versus FI in other people. It's such an easy and clean read, you cannot throw it away. And you don't really need to know anything else to benefit from it. In terms of dealing with someone, an INTJ and an ISTJ, both FI tertiaries, are pretty much identical. Using those two types as one example because they are difficult to deal with without understanding the FE-FI differences in placement point. They're all on some personal journey about what's right or wrong, and they want an authoritative figure to coddle them and to rebel against, but not really. It's like they want their FI to develop in a world or an ecosystem away from the real world created by someone or something, rather than developing it in reality. And once you know that, some of the most difficult people to deal with become not the easiest to deal with, but the clearest to deal with. That knowledge comes from FE and FI, it applies to every type, at least in terms of how their FE or FI operate according to their placement, and you can't throw it away. Now, valuable point over, click away if that's all you needed. This is all to say, forbidden knowledge does exist. In Lovecraftian media, there is forbidden knowledge a person learns and then they go mad from learning. The truth is too much. And it sounds ridiculous because what could, according to our understanding, a person learn and then completely lose their mind just from knowing? And maybe you get into learning about magical stuff, occult stuff, mythological stuff, and it all reads like nonsense. You're trying to find that forbidden knowledge, but it means nothing to you because it affects nothing for you. I've seen people who benefit from learning, quotes, occult stuff because they know how to use it. I've never benefited from it because, to me, it looks like many words I don't know leading toward a mindset unsuited to me. Even if I understood every reference and every interconnection, I wouldn't be able to use them, I wouldn't be able to apply them, because they mean nothing to me. That mindset is not wired for the way my brain is wired. Those people are approaching some kind of truth I can't see and won't be able to interface with. And I say truth because they are applying their knowledge and seeing results. What they've learned is so effective, so true, so the way things work, they can't unsee it. What they've learned has become a current in a river they either swim along with or resist, but not neither because now they know about it, and it has proven itself to be the case. Their study has brought them to a level of reality they can't revert from. I would consider that forbidden knowledge because you can't unsee it because it produces results, and now it is part of the way your mind works. So, quotes forbidden knowledge exists. However, it does not come just from learning about occult stuff. The reason I began the video with the FE versus FI and their placements point is to demonstrate forbidden knowledge, quotes, can come from anything. Once you learn a piece of forbidden knowledge, whatever it is, even if you try to push it from your mind, you can't, because you will always see how it affects you. So with MBTI, you don't just learn a system. You learn a system that produces results. A system that will produce worse results if you try to ignore it. You can't ignore it now that you know it, but it will produce worse results if you ignore it, and might produce greater results if you pursue it further. But if you pursue it further and aim for greater benefits, the more negatives you'll see. Truths you might have enjoyed life better not knowing. But again, if you try to distance yourself from a piece of forbidden knowledge, you will see pitfalls before you walk into them, and then you will voluntarily walk into them, feel stupid for walking into them, and have to deal with the consequences. Once you know, you're fucked up either way, because knowing and benefiting is a benefit, but not knowing at all and not benefiting is also a benefit. Okay, so now we've gone through absolutely, I think, valuable. You internalize this one thing and benefit, doctors hate him. And also, different way of approaching information, valuable. Influences the way you look at things, maybe valuable. Fun value, perhaps. Now we'll go into text. Forbidden knowledge in your boy's life. I've been thinking a lot about my degree lately. I went into my degree thinking I would learn how to write a little better and learn how to be interesting or embarrassing at parties. I didn't expect there to be a ton of value in English or literature, because who gives a shit and who needs it? 1. Who reads books? 2. And I'm here because this is all I'm really good at? 3. What I wasn't expecting was a breakdown and a how-to on mimetic propagation. How ideas infect and then mutate within cultures, and then how to infect cultures or mutate ideas within them. And not just those points, but also how ideas infect, mutate within, and then control you. It's like the telephone game or hot potato with a lot of internal drama, and everyone has guns. I got into this because I liked stories, wanted to be a better storyteller, and was pretty sure I was going to disappoint my family. Instead, I got alien, cosmic horror technology, forbidden knowledge dropped in my lap I can't do anything with. 1, from a material perspective, and 2, from an ideological perspective. I view humanity's development in 2 directions. 1, out. That is science, engineering, technology, space travel, hyper-industrialization, gene modding, or whatever else technology comes up with. 2, in research psychology and religion/literature/media/critical theory. What we think and feel, why we think and feel, how we think and feel, and how we can influence what, why, and how we think and feel. I should add history and international studies, cultural studies in. Now, I think in is much more important. Probably because it's what I have access to and what I'm trained in, but in affects out more than out affects in. If you had to pick one or the other, in affects your mind in any situation more than out will. Out will influence your mind, but in is your mind. I'm of the mind what you think and the means by which you think are the most important things in life. Now, when Patrice was rejected from Canada because of his record, which, if you hear the story and have maybe any similar experiences to relate to it, should affect the way you think about things, maybe, and had a weird, awful epiphany complete with hallucinations in which he realized exactly what it meant he didn't have a father. Part of his assessment of what that was and the repercussions of it was, why? Why am I realizing this now? What is the point of realizing this right now? I don't have a father. I'm realizing what that means right now. What does that even do? One, I would classify that realization as forbidden knowledge. And two, that is my assessment of my major and things I study in my personal time. People aren't people. They are vessels for ideas. Ideologies come and go, but the feelings and aspects of nature each ideology is rooted to stay the same. You, as a real, tangible individual, have no influence over nature, human development, or time. If you try to use force to influence nature, human development, and time, you'll be killed and usurped, and all your accomplishments will be painted or infected with the usurpers and then their descendants' interpretations and ideas. If you try to use ideology to affect nature, human development, and time, you'll get a little further, but again, the moment you're dead, people will take your infectious ideas, mutate them into reflections of themselves, and then try to infect people with those. Whether you use force or memes, you don't matter. The only persistent things in the world are aspects of human nature and aspects of nature itself. But human nature can be fucked with. We can change that. The only thing that matters, the only thing that will persist, will continue to affect people, are the aspects of nature. There is a tear things down force, and there is a build things up force. They are operating at the same time, but that's all a reduction. If there are three phases in the world, or in life, in nature, whatever, first comes those two forces. Then comes interpretation of those forces. What does it mean to build things up? What do you want to build things into? Or what do you want to tear down? Why do you want to tear them down? And then three, finally, lowest force. Carrying out filtered and distorted orders and urges. Each stage flows from one to the next, distorting further each time. Nature says build and destroy. Ideology, and we're going back to ideology instead of saying critical theory, because critical theory is the study of ideology and how to influence it. Ideology is the thing. Ideology interprets build and destroy as build this and destroy that, and then you get force. Obeying ideas on the material level. And even though we're calling it force, it's material. And unfortunately, most of your life, you, individual, will be on the material level, on the force level. You are not creating or influencing ideas. You are not interpreting nature according to your needs. You, stage 3, are obeying the will of someone who, stage 2, interpreted nature for you, not according to your needs, but according to their needs. You, individual, are the bullet, not the gun, and certainly not the person holding the gun. You don't decide your body chemistry, the culture you're born into, the memes you're exposed to, or, because of the times, your culture, or your body chemistry, the memes you are susceptible to. Now, the reason I bring all this up, most people you'll deal with in your life are stage 3 people, force people, material people. And unless you are very lucky, you are bred genetically and mimetically to be a stage 3 person. Now, considering that circumstance, my issue with critical theory is two things. One, the skills they teach you are cited for stage 2 people. But to be a stage 2 person, or at least start as a stage 2 person or in a stage 2 position, you need to be born into it, or you need a mountain of money, a network of connections, or a lifetime of interpersonal skills, all of which this study does not provide you. And I'm not complaining about the lack of providing those things, because those are things you can accrue or develop. The difference in salaries between English majors is ridiculous. Or rather, I should say, anyone studying critical theory, because as it turns out, a number of degree paths study critical theory. You're either the lowest nothing or the highest something. Critical theory feels like forbidden knowledge. You either A, become someone who controls law, wealth, propaganda, and belief, or B, you become a homeless person ranting about the Industrial Revolution and its consequences. And my second point for my troubles with critical theory is righteousness. Observing something that does not originate in memes, trying to figure it out, and trying to abide by it. I would say that's stage 1, or approaching stage 1. Studying stage 1 rather than interpreting it and trying to influence people with your interpretations, with your memes. I think righteousness is memes to support nature rather than to corrupt, obscure, or divert nature. However, because of the way things work, because you are born a stage 3 person, and because stage 2 people exist, the more you attempt to be righteous, the more you attempt to shorten the gap, unobscure the gap between stage 3 and 2 people and nature, the more likely you will become a homeless person ranting about bread, who then gets killed, arrested, or institutionalized in another way. I like watching India as a culture, not as a place, because that culture seems to be the pit all the world's worst memes flow down into and then beat each other to death over. Meaning that produces a lot of yikes stuff, but also some gem people exposed to all of it. Forbidden knowledge. The theme. What the fuck, what the hell What? Oh my god. Swears are a meme. Swears are poison. Sometimes they're good, usually they aren't. What what are you supposed to do with critical theory? You don't have the means to be a stage 2 person. I don't have the brain to become a stage 2 person. And even if you or I could, righteousness alone points out the reason stage 2 is pointless. You're interpreting nature, which is complicated enough, away from truth, and you are interpreting toward bad ends, toward completely selfish ends, completely manipulative ends. But if you try to approach nature as it is and support it with your memes, your understanding of the world, which nature does not need, you'll not just not benefit, but also put yourself at a worse and worse disadvantage. I've been trying to cope with the idea, well, force doesn't mean anything because someone else's force and time will work together to undo any force you put out into the world, and will pollute with ideas to turn it into something else to support a different aspect of nature. So your best bet is to interpret something useful according to nature that will benefit people, but nature doesn't need that. Nature is a force. It'll operate with or without you. You already know that. If you try to contribute to whatever aspect of nature you're attuned to, you go in knowing you don't matter, you will be forgotten, this is all for nature. But again, nature doesn't need you. It's all for nature doesn't mean anything. You aren't sacrificing for a greater cause. What you have to give isn't great. Nature is going to do what it does with or without you. Your contribution doesn't matter. It's not even a contribution. You don't choose the way you're wired. You either follow the way you're wired, the way you're efficient, or you don't. Your efficiency doesn't even matter. If humans all went extinct tomorrow, nature would still keep chugging along. So all that matters to you as an individual is how you feel about it all, which your body chemistry controls most of and you have no choice in, meaning you don't get to choose how you feel most of the time, and you don't even get to choose which drugs or actions you take affect how you feel. And two, the more you try to learn to compensate for the former, the more of a risk you run encountering forbidden knowledge, which makes compensating for the former that much harder. That's one of the reasons one of my pet peeves is anyone who tries to fucking tell you something. It's like a gas engine trying to tell a diesel engine what fuel will make it run best, with no knowledge diesel as a concept exists. That's also one of the reasons MBTI is obnoxiously useful. The knowledge individuals are fundamentally different, and knowing you'll need to set aside time to assess them and understand what's happening with them before you do anything. That is great to know if you want to communicate with people better, but now you know you will need to set aside time to assess people as best you can. You can't assess people perfectly, but at least as best you can. If you want to connect with them genuinely, which is an overused word, but here it means what it means, genuinely, you'll need to put yourself at a time disadvantage to be real with them if you want to be real with them. In most situations, disadvantaging objective, but if you don't do it, you will be disadvantaging yourself because you won't understand them at all. You won't be able to be real with them if you needed to. And either way, in the end, doesn't matter. Kinda matters. Energies. There's an energy of it matters. There is a material of it really doesn't matter. But it could, but it probably won't. But it could, but it probably won't. But it could, but it probably won't. But it could. But it probably won't. And so on. Alright. I am actually feeling alright about all three parts of this video so far. So let's rattle off some other ideas, way less focused ideas, and see what happens. Knowing your righteous efforts don't work hurts inside. You feel stupid and worthless for trying to be your understanding of a good, honest person. It's like being righteous and developing materially are antitheses. However, being dishonest and acting in spite and malevolence also makes you feel bad inside, but in a different way. And we haven't completely worked out what or why that difference is, but it feels completely different. It also doesn't work in the material realm, because you're doing basically the same things, but with a mean face inside, but trying to do what you think is the right thing and failing, and trying to do the wrong things by hijacking the right things' methods and failing, feel completely different, and the latter feels worse. I think it's because if you're trying to be righteous, you are using your tools for what you think are good ends and failing, so it's not your fault. You were trying to do the right thing. And if you were trying to be malicious, you are using your tools for negative ends and you're failing. And of course you fail because that's what's supposed to happen and you deserve it. Part of good and evil is intent versus impact. Someone is dying, suffering, horribly suffering in front of you, and you have a gun with one bullet. You shoot them to help them not hurt anymore. You go to prison for the rest of your life. You feel awful because you're being punished for trying to do the right thing, but in your soul, boys, you know you were trying to do the right thing. Alternatively, you see someone suffering in front of you, you shoot them because you want to kill someone. You go to prison for the rest of your life. You perform the exact same action and suffer the exact same consequences, but your feeling is completely different because your intention was different. We are in hell. We are being punished for something. I think part of good and evil is deciding how you feel in your soul about your punishment. Is your punishment wrong because you are doing what you believe to be good, or is your punishment justified because you are an awful person inside? You're going to be punished either way, but I believe your intentions and your way of looking at it are not nothing. And the beautiful thing about righteousness, despite the fact it will not benefit you on the material level, is in your soul, spiritually, you already know the answer. But it is a difficult answer to accept, to process, and to try to understand. Not to understand, I don't think you will understand. But to try to understand your soul feeling about something. Because it is an unfair contradiction on a logical and on an emotional level. Faulkner was fucking with you when he says this, but it's still true. The human heart in conflict with itself is the only thing worth writing about. You already know the answer. The difficulty is it doesn't make sense and it is unfair. But you understand it. Even though you might not be able to put it into words. You can't make sense of it because it isn't something you can make sense of. If those truths, which are true, but don't make sense, really, really don't make sense, but you know they're the case, are gravity wells, and they're drawing you toward them, you have enough agency to bend gravity in this sense and move to other things. Wrong answers that might make more sense, for now, you know they're wrong answers. You already know they're wrong answers, so they won't benefit you in any way. So why are you wasting time on them? But also, if you try to move toward the gravity well, sighing a lot. If you move toward what you know to be the case, let's not say true, what you know to be the case, you know those answers won't benefit you in any way on this material level. They might not even make you happy. And we continue to mention, righteousness is not what makes you happy or what makes you unhappy. What's righteous is what is right. But you are a stage 3 force material creature. You know these answers will not make you feel any better. They will not benefit you at all on the material level. What is the point of figuring out the truth? Or as close as you can get to the truth. So you, at this state, won't accept wrong answers, but you will not dive into the true answers. Or maybe you do dive into the true answers, but you won't arrive at the absolute truth because in this material plane you can't. And you end up feeling nothing. Absolute, all-encompassing, absolute nothing. At this point, you know nothing is real. You aren't even trying to grapple with realness. Or maybe you are trying to grapple with realness and you're getting nowhere because of course you aren't. You aren't built to. Nothing feels real. You're in a void of nothing you do, nothing you learn will produce results that make you feel good about your existence. Because you know they're incorrect, not wrong, we'll get to that, or they aren't absolutely true if you're on the trying to connect with righteousness truth path. So there is a temptation to do wrong or be bad, even though you know those actions and their consequences will not just be incorrect, but they will be wrong, and you'll suffer even worse when they fall apart, turn to dust, as everything is supposed to. At least with righteousness, you know you're on the right track, even though it doesn't feel good. If you stray away from righteousness, what's bad feels bad. If you intentionally stray away from righteousness, what feels bad feels even worse. If you stay on the righteous track, things will feel bad, but you'll know you are trying to approach truth, or do what you're alive to do, or you're doing what you're supposed to be doing according to whatever thing you don't understand is directing you to do. Here's another meme I want to get into my memes consciousness. Righteousness is not a baseline, suits everybody kind of thing. one person's righteousness will be completely different from another person's righteousness. I'm of the mind there are multiple gods or forces or streams of ideas or aspects of nature, whatever you want to call them, all active at once. And they are doing something in opposition to each other and affecting people in opposition to each other in ways we don't understand. So one person who might be 100% righteous might also be an enemy. But they're easy to deal with because they are so alien from you, so opposed to what you believe or what you are directed to believe, what you're directed to do. You can write them off as an enemy. You don't have to think about them anymore. And I should have mentioned them first. There are people who are not righteous but are trying to pretend to be righteous. They're nothing and you can completely write them off. The really difficult people are the people who are 100% righteous or trying to be righteous, but they are serving a different god, a different force, a different meme, or a different aspect of nature from you. They are close to you in mind, soul, and belief, but they are not the same. They are not serving the same whatever it is. I have a hard time with people like that because you can't write them off as an enemy, you can't write them off as nothing, and you can't accept them into your own cadre of servants of whatever your thing is. I don't want to be an obstacle for people like that, but I also don't want them to fall for the shit I'm pushing when to them it will be shit. To me, it's an attempt to find something, the true thing to believe in, but that's for me and people like me. To them, it'll be shit, but they might not know it's shit. I've been in that situation with more surrogate something meme factories, grifters, than I care to admit, and I don't want that to cause them problems on their path to find and serve whatever they were born to serve. And I don't want them fucking up what I have. I don't want them tainting my memes with their memes, even though genealogically, memeologically, we're pretty close. But when you're trying to be righteous and the things you are righteous about are ugly and serve you no purpose, you're back in that Patrice spot of what is the point of this? You might get closer to some truth, but on the material and even on the emotional level, all you're doing is hurting. My sexuality's been fucking me up for a long time. It makes zero sense, and if someone isn't hurting physically and emotionally, I don't get off. And tangent here, but an important one. At least in males, there's a difference between standard or normal or lower end horny and balls engaged horny. Balls not engaged means you are just physically, biologically reacting to stimulus. You can get hard, you can get off, but in your soul you aren't feeling anything. Balls engaged means you are so into it, you're doing something important. You are involved in a ritual of some kind. Something more than the sum of its parts. And you can feel the difference. as a dude, you will just about involuntarily stare at a naked woman and you'll feel like a zebra drinking from a watering hole. You're nourishing yourself because you need water, but if you could do away with it, maybe you would. Because on a spiritual level, you aren't getting anything out of it. However, if you see something that speaks to your sexuality, and I would place sexuality closer to spirituality than biology, you are shivering. I get off religiously hard on serving women who know something valuable and know how to use it for effect. That's boiling the urge down to its roots. There's more, because I wouldn't be getting off on suffering otherwise, but you can trace different strands of the same rope back to one root. For me, sexuality, not biological coming, is a ritual. And it's important because participating in it is approaching something that is of the utmost importance that makes zero sense from the mimetic mind perspective, but doesn't make sense. Participating in that and examining what it is for what it is to figure your unconscious mind out and figure out why you're alive is righteous. But to acknowledge it for what it is and examine it for what it is disgusting. And then to persist and keep trying to figure it out is even more disgusting. I talk about my paternal grandfather sometimes and how abusive he was to my father, my uncle and aunts, and how that mindset persists physically and mentally across time, across people. It makes me worry about whether or not I would be an okay or even a passable father. But my paternal grandmother abused my father, my uncle, and my aunts differently. And she, for the most part, raised me. She made me do gross things I see in my sexuality today. Right, one of my relationship memes is grooming, which I fucked up one time and said straight without thinking about that word's connotations. One of the most important aspects of any relationship is grooming, mimetically. What I mean by that isn't discord. In my normal walking around talking mind, I mean grooming is important means partners should groom each other physically. Monkeys do it. Our bodies produce chemicals that accommodate grooming. Cutting your partner's hair, cleaning them, feeding them, worrying about their health, taking an active role in their health, develops a bond. If you are treating your partner like a high-end racehorse and letting them treat you like a high-end racehorse, in terms of your or their taking part in your or their health and decisions, you have an investment in your partner and they have an investment in you. It's not just time or money you're putting in, it's blood. And if your partner falls apart, you are losing time and money, but you're also, most importantly, losing blood. If you want a romantic connection to last, you need to involve yourself in your partner's physicality, and you need to let your partner involve themselves in your physicality. Again, back to Patrice, Vaughn was a psycho, but they had Pussy Day. They scheduled grooming time for Vaughn, and they scheduled grooming time for Patrice. Precedent. On a mimetic, this shit works level, this shit works. Patrice cleans Vaughn up, Vaughn cleans Patrice up. Monkeys have been doing the same thing forever, and we are monkeys. Now, all this is to say, on a mimetic level, on a higher consciousness level, I can say my grandmother made me do weird grooming things for her, and there is precedent for those behaviors benefiting connections between primates. And that is real, that is righteous, but on an even realer and more righteous level, that would be saying, my grandmother made me do gross things, and now I am sexually interested in gross things. And even realer and even more righteous, that is to say, what happened with my grandmother handed its baton off to my father and my experiences with the world, and warped into even grosser things. Sacher-Masoch shit that is uncomfortable on the physical level, and you are not allowed to be okay on the abstract level, doubly so when you apply critical theory to it. And I think I've been trying to run away from that for a long time, especially considering that is righteous. That is the truth. It doesn't make sense, but it is real. It is the truth. I hate Freud, but he was approaching something when talking about this stuff. I tried for a long time not to engage with it. That accomplished nothing. You're hiding from something that's there, and it's why I hold particular contempt for anyone who has a one quick fix way of looking at life thing. It's bullshit. If you're looking for that, you're hiding from something, and it will come back to haunt you. If you think I'm bullshitting you, give it some time. Think I'm bullshitting you. Then, when reality punches you in the face and you can't run from reality anymore, buy 1,000 copies of my novelette before painting your living room or finding your next 1 week to 3 year spiritual fix. And then I tried running from it, partially acknowledging righteousness. There is a male homosexual influence to it. I can't figure out any other reason everyone I've met thinks I'm fucking gay. So run from reality, try to be gay. Doesn't work. You can develop a level of closeness you didn't expect, but it will always be agitated. You can manage to come some of the time, never on the balls engaged level, and only on the stimulation level, but only with the support of memes. Never based on pure physicality, never based on pure righteousness. And you'll feel humiliated and awful afterward. So maybe you try to be completely normal, completely vanilla. It's vacuous. It's disgusting. It is the entire reason balls engaged and balls not engaged system or lever exists in the first place. It's empty. Once again, you are avoiding the truth because the truth is gross, not helpful materially or emotionally on the material realm. And you have no idea what it's accomplishing on the spiritual level, even though you know it is accomplishing something, and you do feel righteous. You're stuck with a truth you acknowledge and grapple with, but can't understand and won't benefit from, or you hide from or run from and feel bad for hide or running from. All because the truth is disgusting and confusing. You can't make sense of it. You might be able to see what it is for what it is, but that doesn't mean you'll be able to... You might be able to... You have a puzzle, right? And you see a puzzle piece you know is central to your puzzle, but it doesn't fit. It'll never fit, and you know that. And your options are walk around with a puzzle you know is incomplete, and people will judge you for being incomplete. But you know is complete, but you can't complete here because here the puzzle piece doesn't fit. Or spend all your time trying to make the puzzle piece fit, knowing it will never fit, and being hurt for trying to make the puzzle piece fit, both in your experience or from what you're doing and from other people's reactions to what you're doing. All because you sought out that missing puzzle piece in the first place and found out the missing puzzle piece was not a fit. Would not fit here. Okay. Shifting gears, but not changing the part of the video because we are still in rambling. One of the few things I enjoy about being alive that is... Remember, righteousness does not mean happiness or pleasure. Does not necessarily mean joy. One of the things I enjoy about life, not always connected to righteousness, is being high, or experiencing some kind of high. However, I am terrified of breaking the law. The only substances I've used are alcohol, Delta-8, kratom, and kava, which really, besides alcohol, aren't serious substances. And that pleasure is another gross truth, but one I'm trying to come to terms with. One of my lifetime goals for now, something that makes me feel good about waking up in the morning, is knowing I can and trying to reach a place, a location, and a point means in life I can be high. Knowing there are substances you can ingest that will enhance your understanding of the world and make you feel better on an animal level makes me feel better about things. Just knowing they exist. Next, I got really sick of people calling me gay. Really sick of it. So I shaved my head. I am sending the hair to Locks of Love. I have conflicted feelings about shaving my head. Growing all my hair out was compensation for losing my ability to wear my mohawk, which is... I really loved that haircut, both on a physical and on a mimetic level. A mohawk with muscles is a middle finger. You're too uncomfortable to cause that person problems. Long hair and muscles means you're gay, and the average person is perfectly comfortable picking a fight with that person and causing them problems. I don't know why, but I gave up and shaved my head. One, because I was sick of people insinuating I was a homosexual and having a problem with me for it. Two, while shaved heads are supposed to be the most subservient to the people who ought to know, and therefore most respectable male haircut, I also have the skinhead memes to fall back on. If I feel like I want to rebel in some kind of meaningless way. And three, shaved head and muscles is more threatening than long hair and muscles. Maybe less threatening than mohawk and muscles, but threatening enough you can feel threatening even though you really aren't threatening in any way that matters. And go figure, after I shave my head, all anyone close to me wants to talk about is how much of a fag I looked like with my long hair. And then give me all their other unasked for, unassessed opinions about everything. And back to the substances, I knew, again, I like being high is an ugly base of reality to work from, but I knew that was the case after I got into Kratom and then I stopped using Kratom and then I got back into using Kratom, but only around nighttime. Specifically because Kratom gives you weird, vivid dreams, which, in my opinion, is a kind of high. At that point, you're using it as a tool, not just for recreation. If you want a better connection with your unconscious mind, you take a lot of Kratom before you sleep. If good things in life are the mist that comes out of a misting fan on a hot day, hope is that little bit of water mist you get standing at the furthest edges away from that misting fan. I can't program hope away, but existing on hope isn't a good life, so I'm trying to find enjoyable things to live in hope for. Paying my mother back once she's old and can't care for herself is number one. Knowing there are places and ways to be high is number two. Enjoying substances as a reason to wake up in the morning is a gross urge to have, but it's achievable, it's legal, and it's real. The others are exploring self through analysis, physicality, and sexuality, but again, because YouTube coconuts can't pass the mirror test, my reasons aren't your reasons or anyone else's reasons. These are assessments of where we are right now, just right now, and they may change according to further analysis and experience. Other ideas. When I was a kid, I believed you took the best of a person and adjusted your actions and opinions of them according to that best standard. There are other ideas I haven't fleshed out into full ideas, but we'll cut everything off here. Forbidden knowledge and righteousness. Understand them both, and you'll get the same results as if you didn't, but you'll at least be punished knowing you're trying to be something more true in your soul, whatever that means. But that about rippity wraps this one up. I hope you enjoyed watching, because I certainly enjoyed making it. Like if you enjoyed, because it helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't, because we do this shit sometimes. And comment your thoughts, because I love hearing from you. But thanks again for watching, everybody. Really, we love fun on this channel. So much fun. In fact, you can shave it all off. It is so fun, you can shave it off, because it's so fun you don't need it. And it doesn't matter. It does kind of matter, but the fun you will be having will mutate into something else according to your circumstances, but it'll still be fun and you'll still wrestle with it. That's how much we have on this channel, and I look forward to doing this with you guys again in the future.